Trapped with my alien roommate, during mating season humanity fights back. The title alone could make people shiver because it brings images of danger and survival in a world where humans are not the strongest species, and this is exactly where. The story begins inside the Great Academy of Interspecies Learning, where young humans were sent to live and study side by side with alien races from across the galaxy. The academy was built with shining towers of glass and steel and filled with symbols of peace. But for one human student, the idea of sharing a room with an alien was not a peaceful dream. It was a challenge filled with fear, curiosity, and unknown risks. Had never thought about living with someone from another world, but when his name was called in the large hall and he was told to step forward to meet his assigned roommate, his heart raced. The alien who stood across from him was taller, with smooth gray skin that shimmered under the lights and eyes that seemed too bright to be natural. They looked at him with a strange, calm expression and gave a nod as if to say, "This is destiny." From that moment they were tied together under one roof, sharing not only space but also a fragile thread of trust. The first days passed with awkward silence. The human tried to act normal, keeping his side of the room neat and organized, while the alien kept their side darker, filled with objects that looked sharp and alive. Sometimes the human caught the alien watching him with a gaze that seemed to cut through his thoughts, and it made him uneasy. Yet he told himself it was only cultural difference. After all, the academy always said trust is the bridge to peace. But even with those words repeating in his mind, he could not sleep well at night, because he felt something inside the air, a pressure like the storm before lightning. He started noticing small details that made his skin crawl. The alien breathing deeper at night, as if fighting against something. The sound of claws scraping faintly against the bed frame. The way their pupils dilated when he moved too close. Once he dropped a glass by mistake, and the sharp sound made the alien freeze, their chest rising and falling too fast, as if some inner battle was raging. Then just as quick they returned to stillness with a polite smile that did not reach their eyes. The human tried to shake off the unease, but deep down he felt something strange was approaching. Other humans whispered in the corridors, their voices low but heavy with worry. Some said that this was the season the aliens became unstable, that they followed instincts stronger than logic. Some even told stories of humans who had gone missing long ago. During times when these alien races gathered on their home planets, the academy tried to dismiss those stories, saying they were only old fears, but the tension in the air was undeniable, and the human could see it even in the alien students who walked through the halls with restless movements, as if holding back a hunger that words could not hide. The human wanted to ask his roommate directly, but every time he looked into those glowing eyes, the words froze in his throat. One evening he tried to break the silence by offering food from the cafeteria, but the alien pushed it away gently and said in a voice low and firm, "I do not need this. Not now." Their tone made him shiver, because it was not refusal of taste, it was refusal born from struggle, as if eating would awaken something deeper. The human nodded slowly, pretending to understand, but he lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, his heart beating fast with the question, what is happening? One late night, as the dormitory halls grew quiet, the human woke to the sound of heavy breathing. The room was dim, and the alien stood by the window, their body tense, their claws pressing into the wall, leaving marks that glowed faintly in the dark. Their shoulders shook with effort, as if fighting invisible chains. The human sat up, whispering, "Are you okay?" But the alien did not turn. Instead, they spoke in a voice that cracked like glass. "You should stay away from me. Do not test my control." The human froze, fear rushing through his veins. He wanted to move, but his body was stiff. The alien finally turned, and their eyes were no longer calm, but glowing fiercely with a light that pulsed like fire inside. Their chest rose and fell with unnatural rhythm, and for a moment, the human thought he was staring at a predator about to strike. The alien's gaze locked on him, sharp and unblinking. The silence stretched heavy until finally the alien pulled away and slammed the window shut. Their claws shaking the frame, they whispered again, softer. "This time, you should not be here now." The words hung in the air like a warning that chilled the human to the core. Next morning, nothing was said about the night, but the human could see cracks in the mask. The alien wore, they avoided eye contact, kept their movements stiff and controlled, yet every so often the glow in their eyes returned for just a second, like a flame desperate to burn. The human tried to stay calm, acting as if nothing had changed, but inside him suspicion grew like a heavy stone. He wondered if the whispers about mating season were not only rumors but truth, and if so, what would it mean for him, trapped in the same room with someone who might not be able to resist instincts stronger than reason by the end of the week. The tension was unbearable. He caught the alien standing too close more than once, their breathing harsh, their presence overwhelming. He tried to leave the room, more often wandering the academy halls just to escape, but the feeling followed him wherever he went. Whispers from other students, strange glances from alien teachers, and above all the knowledge that night was coming again, and with it, the possibility that his roommate would lose the battle against whatever storm was building inside. Story of peace between humans and aliens felt thin now, like paper ready to tear, and as he closed his eyes that night, lying stiff in his bed, he realized he was no longer simply a student at an academy. He was prey in a cage with a predator, and though he did not yet know how humanity would fight back, he knew the storm was only beginning, and soon survival itself would be the only lesson left to learn. Trapped with my alien roommate during mating season, humanity fights back is not only a warning but a reality that the human student was slowly learning to face. Each passing day and night brought more signs that something was deeply wrong inside the academy, and especially inside the room he shared with his alien roommate. The once quiet figure who used to sit in silence and watch with calm eyes was no longer calm. Their movements grew restless, their breath heavy, their body language sharper, more aggressive, and though they tried to hide it, the truth was leaking out through every gesture. The human noticed it first in small ways, like how the alien would grip the edge of the desk until the metal bent under their strength, or how their voice would tremble when they spoke as if two different selves were fighting for control. At times the alien would vanish late at night, leaving the room empty and returning hours later with eyes glowing faintly and hands shaking. When the human asked where they had been, the alien only muttered walking, as if that word explained anything. But it did not ease the growing fear. Instead, it made the human stomach twist with suspicion. Other human students began to talk louder. Now, not just in whispers, they said that some of their classmates had been followed down corridors by alien students whose gazes were too intense. They said that in the library, one human was cornered until teachers arrived just in time. The rumors of mating season no longer sounded like rumors, they sounded like survival warnings, and the human felt it most inside his own room, because he could feel his roommate's restraint breaking more and more each day, like a rope that was being pulled until the fibers started to snap. One afternoon in the training hall, the human tried to practice with other humans to keep his mind busy, but even there he could not escape the tension because he noticed alien students circling, watching their every move, their eyes glowing faintly, their breathing louder, and some human instructors looked pale as if they too knew the truth but were forbidden to speak it aloud. Later in the cafeteria, the human heard one alien hiss at another in their strange tongue, and though he could not understand the words, he felt the tone heavy with desire and violence, a mixture that sent chills down his spine. When he returned to the dorm that evening, his roommate was sitting on the floor, their hands pressed to their temples, claws digging into their own skin. The human froze in the doorway, unsure whether to approach or run. The alien lifted their head slowly, their eyes burning like fire, and said in a voice low and strained, "I told you to stay away. I cannot keep it back much longer." The human's heart pounded, but he forced himself to speak, his voice shaking. "You are my roommate. I cannot just disappear. Tell me what is happening. What is this season? What does it mean?" Alien let out a sound, half growl, half sigh. They looked torn between speaking the truth and staying silent. Finally they said, "Our kind is ruled by cycles, and when the time comes, instincts rise stronger than thought. We fight them, but the fight does not last forever. You do not understand what it means for you. The human swallowed hard, suddenly aware that every rumor he had heard might be true. He wanted to ask more, but the alien stood quickly, their claws slicing into the wall as they whispered, "You should fear me more than anyone else here, because I am near losing myself." That night the human could not sleep. He lay awake listening to every sound in the room, the faint scrape of claws against wood, the sharp inhale of breath, the restless shifting of weight. He realized he was trapped not by locks or chains, but by the fragile hope that the alien would not cross the line. Yet he knew it was only a matter of time before that line broke. His mind ran wild with images of what might happen if instincts took over, if the alien decided that the human was prey, or worse, something else that instinct demanded. The following day, fear spread wider through the academy. 2 human students failed to appear for morning lessons. Teachers said nothing, but their absence spoke volumes. Everyone felt it. The halls, once filled with chatter, were now tense and silent. Every human walked in groups, keeping eyes sharp. Every alien seemed heavier, more dangerous, their gazes hungry. The human stayed close to his few friends, who whispered plans of escape, but escape was impossible. The academy gates were locked during term and guarded by alien staff. The humans were stuck waiting for the storm to fully arrive. The emotional weight pressed hard on the human. He remembered when he first came here, how he believed in the idea of peace between species, how he thought he could learn and grow. Now that dream felt shattered. He wondered if he had ever truly known his roommate, or if everything had only been a mask hiding the predator inside. Still, he could not fully hate them, because he had seen moments of struggle in their eyes, moments when they fought against themselves, as if they did not want to hurt him, and that conflict broke his heart even more, because it made the danger feel personal. One evening, everything came to a breaking point. The human was sitting at his desk, trying to write a message home, when suddenly the room grew heavy with silence. He turned and saw his roommate standing too close, their eyes glowing fiercely, their claws trembling at their sides. They looked at him as if he were the only thing in the universe, and for a heartbeat, he thought this was the end. Then the aliens slammed their claws into the wall just beside his head, their bodies shaking with restraint. Their voice rough with need. "Get out now, before I lose it completely." The human bolted from the room, his chest tight, his legs weak. He ran down the hall until he reached the courtyard, where other humans had gathered, whispering and crying. They too had seen the signs. They too were living with aliens who were unraveling. The truth was now undeniable. Mating season had arrived, and no one was safe. The humans looked at one another, their fear uniting them. For the first time they realized they could not just hide or run. They would have to stand together to survive what was coming. As the human stood there among them, his heart still racing, he looked back at the dormitory window where his roommate's shadow lingered motionless. He felt torn between fear and sorrow, because deep down he knew that his roommate was not evil, but trapped in a war between instinct and choice. Yet instinct was winning, and soon the thin barrier of control would break. When that happened, survival would no longer be a matter of luck. It would be a matter of fight or be taken. And so the human understood for the first time the meaning of the whispers. Humanity must fight back, not with strength of body, but with unity, with cleverness, with the will to live, no matter what stood against them. As the night fell darker than ever before, he knew that the next hours would decide not only his fate, but the fate of every human inside the academy. Trapped with my alien roommate during mating season, humanity fights back is not just a title or a warning anymore. It had become reality for every human inside the academy. The storm that had been whispered about was now unfolding in front of their eyes, and the human student, who once believed in peace, now stood among trembling classmates who all carried the same question on their faces. What do the aliens truly want from us? The fear was heavy, and no one could deny it anymore. The signs were too clear, the glowing eyes, the restless breathing, the claws digging into walls, the strange way the aliens looked at them like hunters circling prey. The human tried to calm himself, but his thoughts would not stop spinning. He remembered every moment with his roommate, the nights when he heard claws scrape against the wall, the warning whispered to stay away, the way the alien's voice had cracked as if torn between desire and regret. He could no longer pretend it was culture or misunderstanding. He now knew it was something far darker and much more dangerous. His chest felt heavy as he thought maybe all the rumors were true. Maybe humans were not just classmates in the academy, maybe they were targets. That night the truth finally came to him, not through rumor, but through experience. The human had stayed close to the courtyard with other humans, hoping safety came with numbers, when suddenly a scream echoed from the far end of the hall. Everyone turned and saw an alien student pinning a human against the wall, their body trembling, their glowing eyes fixed on the terrified human girl. It was not a fight about anger, it was instinct, raw and terrifying. The alien's voice broke through the silence, low and harsh. "You do not understand, we cannot stop this." The teachers rushed forward, forcing them apart, but the damage was done. The truth was visible to everyone. Humans gathered in panic, asking each other, "What does this mean? What is happening?" Until one older human student spoke, his voice steady but filled with fear. "I heard from staff. They said it in whispers. The aliens in this academy follow a cycle. Every cycle, they enter mating season, and when that happens, they do not see humans as classmates anymore. They see us as prey, as mates, as things to claim. We were never told because they did not want panic, but now there is no more hiding." The human who had been attacked sobbed while others tried to comfort her. But the words struck deep into every heart. The human protagonist felt his blood run cold, because he knew now his roommates' struggle was not a personal issue, it was a universal truth. Every alien was bound to lose control, and the humans were caught in the middle. He thought of the way his roommate had begged him to leave the room, warning that control would not last. And suddenly those words felt like the most honest confession he had ever heard. The alien was not threatening him out of cruelty. They were warning him out of fear that instinct would force them to hurt the very person they tried to protect. Next day, the academy's atmosphere was poisoned by tension. Humans walked together, never alone, whispering hurried plans to survive, while aliens walked stiffly as if chains held them from attacking. The air was thick with fear. The human sat at the edge of the dining hall with two friends, listening as they spoke in low voices. One said, "We need to make weapons, anything sharp, anything strong." Another said, "We cannot fight them. They are too strong. We need to hide." The human stayed silent, his eyes staring at the table, because deep inside he already knew hiding would not save them. Instincts could track them no matter where they went. That evening, when he returned to his room, he found his roommate sitting in the dark, the alien's eyes faintly glowing, the air filled with the sound of harsh breathing. The human stood frozen in the doorway until the alien spoke without turning. "I told you before, I cannot hold it back much longer. You need to be gone before I break." The human forced himself to step inside, his voice shaking. "Tell me the truth. Do your kind really see humans as prey during this season? Do you see me like that now?" The alien turned slowly, their face twisted with pain and conflict. Their claws dug into their own skin as they whispered, "Yes." The human's chest tightened. The word echoed inside him louder than any scream. "Yes." The alien admitted it finally, and in that moment, the fragile bridge of trust shattered. Though a piece of him had known it all along, the confirmation cut like a blade. The alien's voice trembled again. "I tried to resist because you are my roommate, because you are more than prey to me, but instinct does not care. It whispers, it pushes, it takes control. I do not want to hurt you." But wanting is not enough. The human's eyes stung with emotion, because he could see truth in those words. Truth that was both terrifying and tragic. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the academy halls, the voice of a teacher shouting, "Lockdown! Lockdown! All humans return to safe zones." Now the human rushed to the window and saw chaos erupting, aliens lashing out in hallways, humans screaming and running, teachers trying to hold back students whose instincts had finally broken. The sight made his stomach turn cold. This was no longer fear of what might happen. This was the nightmare becoming real. His roommate staggered back pressing their hands against the wall, their breathing wild, their eyes burning brighter than ever. The human backed away terrified, because he knew the breaking point had come. Then it happened. The alien lunged toward him with speed faster than thought, their claws slashing through the air, their voice not words, but a growl torn from deep inside. The human stumbled back, falling against the desk, his heart hammering, his mind screaming to move. He looked up and saw his roommate hovering above him, claws inches from his chest, the glow in their eyes so fierce it felt like fire. He knew in that moment the person who had once warned him to stay away was gone, replaced by instinct pure and merciless. Human's voice cracked as he whispered, "Please stop," but the alien's body trembled, as if two wars were raging inside, one of instinct demanding to strike, the other of memory fighting to hold on. The claws shook. The breath came in harsh gasps, and then with a roar the alien slammed their claws into the desk beside his head. The wood splitting under the force. The human froze, tears running down his face, because he realized he was alive only because of that tiny piece of control that had not yet vanished. The alien staggered back, their voice broken. "Go now before I cannot choose." The human ran from the room, his heart racing, his body weak. Every corner of the academy screamed with chaos. Humans fleeing, aliens chasing doors, slamming alarms, echoing. The truth was out now. There was no denying it. Humanity had been dropped into the middle of a storm they never prepared for, and survival was no longer about studies or peace talks. It was about fighting instincts older than reason. The human knew now there would be no safety unless humanity found a way to resist and fight back together. And though fear tore through him, he also felt a spark of something else, determination, because in the heart of terror, he realized humanity was not only prey, they were survivors, and when pushed to the edge, they would fight back with everything they had. The academy had hidden the truth, but now it was too late. The humans knew the secret. They knew what the aliens wanted, and they knew that survival would only come through unity, cunning, and courage. Trapped with my alien roommate during mating season, humanity fights back is no longer just a warning, but the truth that was happening all around the academy. The silence of uneasy whispers had broken into screams of chaos. The halls that once carried voices of study were now filled with panic. The humans were no longer safe roommates or classmates. They were prey caught inside the storm of alien instincts, and every moment the danger grew worse. The human protagonist ran through the corridors, his chest burning, his legs weak, his heart pounding like a drum. He could still hear the sound of claws slamming into wood back in his room, where his alien roommate had almost lost complete control. The memory of glowing eyes and trembling claws haunted him with every step. The academy had become a battlefield. Doors slammed, alarms blared, alien students howled and clawed against walls, searching for the humans, who now moved in groups, desperate to protect each other. The human found himself among other students, some crying, some holding makeshift weapons fashioned from broken chair legs or sharpened metal rods. They all looked at one another and understood there was no more waiting for teachers or staff to protect them. The teachers themselves were struggling to control the situation, some shouting orders, while others were dragged down by alien students who could no longer resist the pull of instinct. The human took a deep breath and said to the others, "We cannot just run, we must fight together, or none of us will survive." His voice shook, but the fire in his chest burned stronger than his fear. The others nodded, some reluctantly, some with tears in their eyes, but they knew he was right. Hiding would not save them. Not in an academy where every hallway and dormitory was filled with those who now hunted them. They moved as a group down the corridor, and the human remembered his roommate's words, "You should not be here. You should stay away." The truth now echoed painfully inside him. His roommate had tried to warn him, but warnings were no longer enough. Survival was all that mattered. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and handed it to one student, saying, "Use this to blind them if they come too close." He took a long metal rod for himself, gripping it tight, though he knew his strength was nothing compared to alien claws. He told himself that human unity and human will were weapons too. As they reached the main hall, The sight froze them in place. A group of aliens stood in the center, their bodies trembling, their eyes glowing, their movements sharp and violent. One of them lunged at a human, but 3 others rushed to pull the victim away, swinging metal pipes and chairs. The alien roared, but stumbled when another human sprayed the fire extinguisher, white fog filling the air, giving them a chance to escape. The human protagonist shouted, "This is how we fight. We use our minds. We use every tool we have together. We can survive the chaos." Spread across the academy, humans blocking doors with furniture smashing, lights to create darkness where their smaller size gave them an advantage, and shouting signals to warn each other when danger was near. They were terrified, yes, but fear turned into fuel, pushing them to move faster, to think sharper, to stand side by side. Instead of alone, every human carried the same thought in their hearts: we will not be prey, we will not be taken. But even as they fought back, the human protagonist could not escape the weight inside his chest, because he knew his own roommate was somewhere nearby, and soon he would have to face them again. He remembered the look in their glowing eyes, torn between instinct and control, and he wondered whether there would be anything left of the person he once trusted, or whether instinct had already consumed them completely. Hours passed like years. Every hallway a battlefield, every corner filled with the sound of screams and clashes. Humanity was bleeding, but not broken. They had begun to form strategies, some groups distracting aliens, while others rescued trapped classmates, some setting off alarms to draw attention away from those too weak to fight. The academy that had once taught peace was now teaching survival, and the humans were proving they were far stronger than anyone had believed. Then came the moment the human protagonist had dreaded. He turned a corner, and there his roommate stood alone in the hallway, their body trembling, their claws bloody from battles with others, their eyes glowing brighter than ever. The human froze. The group behind him whispered in fear, but he raised a hand telling them to hold back. His chest tightened as he stepped forward, his weapon in hand, his voice shaking. "But steady enough. You warned me before. But now it has come to this. Will you fight me, or will you fight the instinct inside you?" Aliens stared at him, their breathing heavy, their claws scraping against the wall with a screeching sound. The silence stretched until finally the alien lunged forward with a roar. The human barely raised his rod in time. The clash sent pain through his arms as claws met metal, sparks flying. He stumbled back, his heart racing, his group behind him shouting his name. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand again. He thought of every human who had fallen tonight, every scream, every sacrifice, and he felt something rise inside him, stronger than fear. He shouted to the alien, "I will not be prey, not now, not ever." His voice echoed through the hall. His group rallied behind him, swinging their weapons, spraying fire extinguishers, hurling anything they could. The alien roared, slashing through the fog, but the humans moved together, surrounding their friend, their unity overwhelming even the predator's strength. Every time the alien knocked one aside, another stepped in, their teamwork breaking through the frenzy of instinct. Finally, the alien froze, claws inches from the protagonist's chest, their body trembling with conflict, their eyes wild, but flickering with something deeper, something human-like. The group stood ready to strike, but the protagonist raised his hand, stopping them, his breath ragged, his eyes locked on his roommates. He whispered, "Fight. If you are more than instinct, you are not just a predator." For a moment, nothing moved, the air heavy with fear. Then the alien let out a roar, slamming their claws into the floor. Instead of the human, the tiles cracked under the force, their body shaking as if breaking apart from the inside. The human stepped back, unsure if this was victory or only a pause. The protagonist lowered his weapon, his heart torn between relief and sorrow, because he could see the struggle burning inside his roommates' eyes. The night dragged on, filled with clashes and close escapes, but word spread quickly. Humans were not helpless. They were fighting back with cleverness and unity. They were surviving against creatures stronger, faster, and more dangerous, and each victory, no matter how small, built hope in their hearts. The academy was still burning with chaos, but the humans now knew they were not powerless, and As dawn began to break, casting light through the shattered windows, the human protagonist stood. In the ruined hall, his body exhausted, his mind sharp with one thought. This was only the beginning. Humanity had fought back once, and they would fight again, because survival was not only about strength, it was about will, and no alien instinct could take that away. Trapped with my alien roommate, during mating season humanity fights back had now reached the final stage of truth. The academy was no longer a place of peace, it was a battlefield of instinct, survival, and willpower. The night of chaos had stretched long and heavy, but as dawn pushed its pale light through shattered windows, the humans who had survived gathered in silence, their clothes torn, their arms bruised, their faces pale with exhaustion, but their eyes carried something new. It was not just fear anymore, it was fire, it was the will to live. Human protagonist stood at the center, his body aching, his mind spinning with every memory of the night. The screams, the running, the clashes, the glowing eyes of predators who were once classmates. He had fought with everything inside him, but more than the pain of his body was the weight inside his heart, because the image of his roommate would not leave him. He remembered the moment when the alien almost struck him, then turned claws into the floor instead. He remembered the flicker of conflict in those burning eyes, and he wondered, was there still hope for them, or had instinct already erased the person he once knew? The surviving humans gathered in what was left of the main hall, broken glass on the floor, chairs, overturned walls, scorched by fire extinguishers, and makeshift weapons in their hands. Though they were weak, they looked at one another with a shared strength. Someone said quietly, "We survived." Another whispered, "But for how long?" Another said, "They will come again. We cannot hide forever." The human protagonist lifted his head, his voice raw but steady. "No, we cannot hide, but we are not weak anymore. We fought back, and we won small battles last night. That means we can win again if we fight together." At that moment, the doors of the hall slammed open, and a group of aliens stumbled inside, their eyes still glowing, their claws twitching. The humans froze, gripping their weapons, ready for another fight. But then they noticed something different. The aliens were shaking, their bodies trembling, as if the storm inside them was breaking. The leader among them collapsed to the ground, clutching their chest, their glowing eyes fading into dull exhaustion. The humans looked at each other, confused, until one human instructor stepped forward, his voice urgent. "It is ending. The cycle is ending. The season is breaking." The words spread like a wave, ending, ending, breaking, and the humans slowly lowered their weapons, their hearts pounding. The aliens fell one by one against walls, against the floor, their claws retracting, their breathing slowing, the fire in their eyes fading, as if the storm that had controlled them was finally burning out. The human protagonist felt his knees weaken as he realized the nightmare might truly be ending. The mating season had run its course, and with it the frenzy of instincts that had nearly destroyed them. He turned and saw his roommate standing at the far end of the hall, their bodies swaying with weakness, their eyes half glowing, half fading. They looked at him across the broken room, their chest rising and falling with effort, their claws stained, but no longer raised in threat. For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled with all the pain and all the struggle of the last nights. Then the alien spoke in a voice weak but clear. "I tried to hold it back, I tried to warn you, but instinct was stronger than me." The human swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "You almost killed me, but you also saved me. You stopped when you could have ended me." The alien lowered their head, shame burning in their face. "I do not deserve your words. My kind are dangerous, and this academy was wrong to hide the truth. You were right to fight back, because humans are not prey. You are stronger than you know." The human felt tears sting his eyes as he stepped closer, every part of him still afraid, but also filled with sorrow, because he could see the weight of guilt pressing on his roommate. He whispered, "Then remember this lesson. Tell your kind what happened here. Humanity will never be prey again." The alien nodded slowly, their body trembling, but their voice steady. "I will remember, and I will carry this truth when the season comes again. Perhaps peace will mean more than words. It will mean respect, because now we have seen what humans are capable of. The words carried across the hall, and the humans listening felt pride rise in their chests. Not pride of arrogance, but pride of survival. They had been underestimated, but now they had shown the strength of unity. The strength of will. As the sun rose higher, the chaos settled. Aliens lay exhausted, drained of instinct. Humans gathered, wounded but alive. The academy was no longer whole, but something new was born from the ruins, a new understanding. The human protagonist looked around at his friends, their faces pale but alive. He felt the heaviness of loss too, because not all had survived their absence. Carved holes in every heart. But he also felt something else, a fire that whispered they had fought, they had survived. And they would carry this lesson beyond the walls of the academy. That night when quiet finally returned, he sat by the broken window staring at the stars, his body aching, but his mind sharp. He thought about the future, about what humanity would do. Now he knew this was only the beginning, because if one academy could hide the truth, then there were many more secrets across the galaxy. Humanity would not remain silent. They would prepare, they would grow stronger, they would remind every species that humans were not fragile children of Earth, but fighters, survivors, and builders of their own destiny. He whispered into the night, "We are not prey," and the words felt like a promise carried into the stars. His roommate, who sat nearby, weak but alive, turned their glowing eyes, now dimmed with exhaustion, and whispered back, "No, you are not." And for the first time since the nightmare began, there was no hunger, no frenzy, only truth. And so the season ended, leaving scars across the academy, but also leaving a revelation. Humanity had faced the storm and had not broken. They had fought back with nothing but will, unity, and cleverness, and they had survived. The story would spread far beyond the academy walls, a story that carried both warning and hope. The warning that instincts could never be hidden, the hope that humans, when pushed to the edge, would rise together as one. The human protagonist closed his eyes for a moment, his heart heavy yet filled with fire. He knew this was not the end of their journey, it was only the beginning, because the galaxy now knew humanity's strength, and if another storm ever came, they would be ready to fight back again and again, until no one dared to see them as prey. The end.